The Walt Disney Company CEO Bob Iger has found himself in hot water, especially ruffling the feathers of ex CEO or ex owner Elon Musk. But he also made some crazy comments about the woke characters that the Walt Disney Company is injecting in numerous of its properties, from Star Wars to Marvel to Pixar, across the board, even to Disney animation. And he's talking about how he wants to kind of stamp that down. But we're going to go over his comments here and kind of see what he's actually saying. And I'm joined by special guest Culture Casino to discuss this. So we're glad to have him here as part of the Trent Report. Welcome, Culture Casino.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm very excited. I like this format, so I'm looking forward to today. Let's get it done.
Yeah, before we get started, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future Trent Report videos. With that out of the way, we do have this article up over here that I penned earlier this morning. Disney CEO Bob Iger addresses plethora of woke characters the company is pumping out. Company's actions indicate he's lying. So obviously, you kind of have an idea of what my opinion already is with that headline. But let's get into what he actually said here. So he did this appearance at the New York Times' Deal Book Summit, where he was interviewed by Andrew Ross Sorkin of the New York Times. And he was asked about how he is supposed to deal with the numerous amount of characters and storylines the company has created that have been deemed woke. This is what he answered. He said, "Let me start about content and your comment about woke characters. Our primary objective in creating content as a company, save for ABC News, which is obviously to inform, questionable, right? Is to entertain, whether it's sports, whether it's Disney, whether it's Marvel, make things that entertain people. And the good news is that there's a marketplace out there that demands entertainment. It's a fantastic business to be in because of that." So, uh, to me, that obviously the idea that they're supposed to make things that entertain people, that should be obvious. The fact that you're actually having to say that means you probably aren't actually doing that. What do you think of that,
I
Culture?
think that you're clearly not doing that. I mean, you're watching, the appreciation of anything that they've produced dwindling away to nothing. The biggest problem I think that he has is that he circumvents the conversation and the intent behind any question. The minute you start to do that and obfuscate or whatever terminology you want to use, you're already showing that everything that you say is designed to be misleading. And this statement in particular does exactly that. Creating content as a company, well, you're certainly doing that, but you're not creating entertainment any longer if you're trying to design things to entertain. So, like I said, the way that he phrased his response is basically just an indication that he is basically misleading you, or lying would be an easier way to say it.
Yes, I 100% agree. He's very skilled at it, but kind of observing him over the past couple years, you do pick up on it, and you can point it out, and I think other people are able to pick up on it too, as you pointed out.
Yeah.
He goes on and says, "I think what had happened over a period of time and was building and building, and maybe it reached a peak of some sort while I was gone, is that creators lost sight of what their number one objective needed to be. Often, when we entertain, and we've entertained as a company over the 100 years we've been in business, we have entertained with values and with having a positive impact on the world in many different ways. I use Black Panther as a great example of that, just in terms of fostering acceptance, or the movie Coco, which Pixar did about the Day of the Dead. I like being able to do that, entertain, and if you can infuse it with positive messages that have a good impact on the world, fantastic. But that should not be the objective." So he's saying here that the company lost sight in like the 1 year that he was kind of not the CEO of the company, and decided not to stop entertaining in that 1 year. They just completely stopped doing it when he was gone, when it was under Bob Chapek. Seems a little disingenuous to me that they would all of a sudden just decide to stop once Bob Iger was gone.
Well, more than a little disingenuous, since he's the one that greenlit all the projects that are essentially contained all of these woke characters, the woke messaging, and everything else. He's the one that greenlit the program that was exposed by Christopher Rufo called Reimagine Tomorrow, amongst many other DEI initiatives and incredibly divisive initiatives that basically rolled out over the course of a 5-year period of time. So again, misleading and kind of cowardly, if you want my opinion, because I know maybe this is in the article, but he's saying all this when Bob Chapek cannot possibly respond because he's tongue tied, because he's under an NDA.
Yeah, exactly. He's taking cheap shots at Bob Chapek, knowing he can't respond. He's trying to punt any kind of responsibility that he has, that he was the shepherd of this company that injected all of this stuff. He was the one who greenlit the Reimagine Tomorrow products, as you say. He's the one who greenlit the Stories Matter stuff. He's the one that is allowing all of this stuff to kind of be pushed out there, whether it's the Forces Female stuff that we're seeing in Star Wars, whether it's the MCU stuff that we're seeing with Marvel, whether it's transmission allegories, as Gary Beekler says over at Nerdrotic, the new Doctor Who stuff that they are not only distributing, but they are also financing. We've got Disney Junior stuff where they're kind of pushing a lot of this gender identity stuff in it too. So I think so. I forget who it was. Someone said they ended the last Star Wars movie, The Rise of Skywalker, with an erotic kiss. So this was all under him.
Yeah, and consider the fact that he never really left. I mean, you and I have talked privately about this on many occasions, but he never really left his position of power. He just wasn't the CEO anymore. So, chief creative officer, whatever he wanted to call himself during Chapek's limited tenure. It was only about that 11-month period of time that Chapek had any say, which allowed him to restructure the company into a way that he could actually manage the talent and do that through the use of budgets and other mechanisms like that, installing Kareem Daniel into a position to oversee it. And what was one of the first things that Iger did when he got there? He disassembled that and then went back to the structure that he preferred, which gave these people that kind of authority to greenlight projects that were wholly invested in woke ideology, intersectional feminism, you name it. So identitarian
Critical race
politics.
theory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the other things that I kind of note here, though, too, is he tries to couch what he's doing as an objective good, because he says we have entertained with values and with having a positive impact on the world. He then he cites Black Panther, obviously couching that in kind of the oh, if you're going to object to me saying this, you're a racist, right? That's kind of where he's already positioning himself there, I feel like. And then obviously kind of with Coco there as well. But a lot of people aren't really objecting. I don't know. I don't feel like people are objecting to Black Panther. A lot of the criticism of Black Panther is that the actual movie was
good,
wasn't as good as what it should have been. It could have been a lot better. The subplot in Civil War with Black Panther was, I think, a better story than what we actually got in the film. But a lot of the criticisms isn't really about this stuff. It's more of you're pushing it in the animated stuff. You're pushing it along on the kids again. Disney Junior stuff. We're seeing a lot of this stuff in the Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures. And he's trying to couch these things that are objectively wrong and evil, and he's trying to spin them as we're having a positive impact, and these are good values.
That's a common theme right now with Disney. I think you would agree, John, that they try to prop up the villain as the good guy. They try to prop up some very terrible bad ideas as the good thing.
Yeah, I'd actually disagree. I actually think that they give the quote unquote hero bad morals, bad values, and a lot of times you are this person sucks. I'm actually want them to lose because I want the villain to win because the villain is opposing this person's bad moral decisions.
Well, and again, that's the other side of that same coin, because again, they try to do both things at the same time, which is an example of that, right? Bad motivations, I would say, from the person that you're supposed to be cheering for. I think that's there's an issue here. And the fact that you're going to couch everything that you're doing as a form of activism, and that the people that have left the company are couching everybody who took over there as activists. That's not how you operate a for-profit company. I mean, and you can question whether or not that's even a good way to run a 501c, but it's insane. Like I said, he has not been a genuine person for a very long time. I think Aunt Willow might even be disappointed in Uncle Bob's behavior. So
I would agree. So he continues and says, when I came back again, he's like, I'm saving things now because Bob Chapek flushed him down the toilet. It's no. When I came back, what I have really tried to do is to return to our roots, which is, remember, we have to entertain first. It's not about messages. Again, if your story can have a positive impact, so there's that. I've worked hard since I've been back and reminding the creative community that are our partners. Okay, so our employees, that's the objective. And I don't really want to tolerate the opposite. So there's that. This just seems like a straight up lie.
Either that or he's telling you that he's going to double down on this messaging and just look out.
Right. I guess what I'm talking about when I'm calling it a straight up lie,
Oh,
he's saying we have to entertain first. It's not about messages. And then he kind of, I think the fact that he's lying because he kind of like it was very, I don't know if you
but he
realize that
said,
his kind of words here are all kind of jumbled and he doesn't really know what he's saying here
what?
because he's trying to cover himself.
Right. But again, John, this should remind you because it reminds me of the first summit that he was in, talking about, entertaining first and everything else. And then
Yes.
the last time he went
Just a
out
year ago in November.
yeah, exactly. And the last time he went out and did that, it really did expose him to the opportunity to be called out because it's been a year, Bob, and you haven't changed. It's gotten worse. Your company's gone downhill. You could edit the heck out of a film like you did with the Marvels, but it's not going to make it good, and it's not going to get rid of the message because it's embedded at every level.
I mean, I mean, you can't even make it up. He does this like less than a week after they release the Doctor Who transmission allegory special to
Oh yeah,
Disney Plus,
yeah.
which is probably the largest piece of propaganda I've ever seen. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it's so over the top, in your face, everything like the first 10, 15 minutes, that's all it is. It's just beating you over the head with the propaganda. And this guy's trying to tell me that he's telling the creative community to entertain first when like the most recent big project that they've released is just a straight piece of propaganda. Like how can you say that with a straight face?
He's really good at it. I mean, he's had years of practice, John. Ever since he was a weatherman, he always was talking out of his ear hole or whatever. Because I mean, they're weather guessers. They don't know anything. They're paid news readers, and that's basically all he's ever done is just take information and regurgitate it back in a way that might please, but certainly doesn't address anything that was actually needed. He doesn't answer questions. He dodges them. He talks around them, and he did that at every level. I don't know. He's just
The,
it's it's
I,
it's funny to arrive at the conclusion that he's just a despicable human being. So
and I'm quickly getting to that conclusion because the fact that he's always trying to spin it as like, oh, the things we're actually creating are making positive impacts. It's positive. This stuff is so good. We're doing this because it's good. And it's like, no, a lot of this stuff is objectively wrong. It's evil. Your Reimagine Tomorrow stuff is a racist policy.
yeah.
Like clearly trying to say like you have racist quotas in that across the board, not just in what you're seeing on screen, but it's behind the camera in the production, et cetera, et cetera. And it's obviously this stuff is completely and utterly failed. I mean, we're seeing the fruits of the labors coming. They're coming home to roost, right? The chickens are coming home to roost, and there's no eggs. Like you're not getting any eggs.
Yeah.
Instead, they're getting like the hens are being eaten up by the foxes, I guess. I'm just going off on like crazy analogies right here, but I mean, what do we 500 half $1 billion in just the month of November with the Marvels and Wish? You can't like lie your way through those hard facts, but he still seems to try and do that. I will give Sorkin here some credit because he was kind of pressing him on a lot of this stuff, and I felt like he did make Bob a little uncomfortable, and you can kind of see that in his body language. Obviously, we didn't get to watch the video here for copyright purposes, but if you do watch the video, which is here in the article, you can see that he does get quite uncomfortable.
He's uncomfortable there. It's funny. Bob will sit there for a while during interviews, and if somebody gets too close in multiple times, he really does shift into double speak for the entire rest of the interview. Even that, again, we reflect back on the last town hall, but even in this most recent one, he essentially just went down the quarterly that he just gave, the financial results to the employees, which they could have just listened to that themselves or read it or whatever. There was no point to the town hall because at no point did he take questions. And I think you guys covered a story about that as well.
Yeah, he didn't want to take questions because last time those Q&As got leaked and he was trying to position himself as some kind of deity that could determine what is right and wrong, and he was the final arbiter of that as some big wig CEO, and
Yeah.
he views himself as that, and it was just kind of utterly despicable. And you really get a idea as to what he thinks of himself and how big his ego truly is.
It's still the biggest problem there is that ending statement that I know we glossed over it a couple times, but the fact that I won't tolerate the opposite. Very tolerant.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Um, so if he views something as a negative, he won't tolerate that. And I think we clearly kind of know, based on what he views as a positive, what those negatives must be, right? Simply by what the law of opposites. Um,
Yeah.
really telling. I don't think the Walt Disney Company is going to be changing anytime soon. I think this is just kind of another like you were saying, double speak. It's all about like quieting the noise. He doesn't really want to change anything that the company is doing. He wants to keep heading it in this position that he has steered it, not Bob Chapek. He steered it that way. And he just wants the press to kind of tamp down. Unfortunately, I think the press is no longer at the behest of the Walt Disney Company. I also think that people like yourself, people like Gary B. Clark Neurotic, people like WDW Pro, people like Valiant Renegade, you name it, we are determining the narrative now, because that is the true narrative. It is the
Yeah.
truth. That is where people are seeing. People are recognizing that, and you can't hide the truth, or you can't hide. Yeah, you can't hide the truth behind Hollywood Reporter puff pieces uh, forever.
Well, and the other problem is that because we're able to provide details and facts, and we can back it up with those. We talk about the fact that these films are losing money. Your ideas, Bob, and everything that you promote is losing money. I mean, that there's no, and not only that, we can point out that Hollywood Reporter and all the Penske Media Corp, because it's Hollywood Reporter,
Yep.
Deadline, and Variety are all the same company. That's
Yep.
the other thing most people don't know, but
They
um,
don't.
yeah, but that's the same
Very
company. It's all
very well
Penske
aware
Media.
though.
Yeah. Oh, I know you are. But and then of course the only one that's truly independent, although incredibly, strongly aligned with Bob's ideals, is Waxman over at the Wrap. And all of them try to obfuscate the truth. They try to hide the fact that Disney loses money on these films, and they try to hide behind, well, it made its budget back. No, it didn't. You the theaters get half that money, and then let's talk about advertising, A&P, as VR calls it. Let's talk about those numbers, because you guys are terrified of people realizing that Disney is hasn't made money in a year.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just at the box office. I mean, we
Yeah.
see the Disney Plus, the DTC stuff constantly losing money. Investors are now taking action. We obviously have Nelson Peltz, who has seen through the lies of Bob Iger and wants to correct course. And one of the things he's talked about is the creative engine at the Walt Disney Company that is in a white paper that his Treon Management Group actually released back in February, I believe. Maybe it was the end of January, early February. And that was one of the key points that he wanted to change is the creative engine at the Walt Disney Company had sputtered out, and he wanted to rebuild it and get it back up and running again, because he does see a significant value in a lot of the IPs and properties that the Walt Disney Company owns, but it's just not being properly maintained and managed right now. And I think the buck stops at Bob Iger, because again, he is the one who ushered in all of the Reimagine Tomorrow, all of the Stories Matter policies, and has not only kind of like he's rebuilt the Walt Disney Company in his image, hired numerous employees that are kind of part of his ideological acolytes. And we see that in the fruits of the products that they have created, whether it's at the movie theaters, whether it's in the TV shows, and now we're even seeing it in the parks as well, especially at that Bibbidi Bobbidi boutique over there in Disneyland.
Wow, yeah, boy, was that a wake-up call. I mean, in succession, you had all of those revelations happen over the course of about 90 days.
Under Bob
And
Iger's leadership.
yeah, oh yeah, indeed. I mean, and those are the things he's striving for. He's striving for societal disharmony, and he's pushing that with all this divisiveness, and it's in his messaging to his employees. It's in his messaging to the financial community, at least the ones that agree with him. It's in his messaging to the press, specifically the trades, et cetera, et cetera. And again, he has no intention of changing. If you look at the 10K, which you guys covered brilliantly, and you did a wonderful article, John, that is essentially them saying we are doing this wrong. We know we're doing this wrong. We've had a lot of people decide they don't want to work with us or consume our products anymore, but we have no intent of changing.
Exactly. They're again, they're admitting it to the government, the Securities and Exchange Commission. It's in that 10K form. So I think that's like a perfect place to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for joining us, Culture Casino. Your analysis is always fantastic to hear. I know you have your own channel going on over there. Where can people follow you?
Well, you can find me at Culture Casino on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, Minds, Getter, etc., and of course Twitter, which I'll be on forever now because Elon Musk is a goat. But you'll also find me on That Park Place, which I have behind me, at WDW Pro, Midnight's Edge, Mr. H, and many other places. And I just want to say thanks for having me today, John. Appreciate it.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you, and thank you all so much for watching. We now extend the conversation to you all in the comments below. Have a great one.